Let's go through the demo for MS-MS conformation setup, focusing in on setting the spectrum extraction override and then creating the MS-MS reference library. Well, here we are in the method editor to set up the MS-MS configuration. And first let me say, I put this in the expert category. There's a number of steps. So first let me make the point that the quantitation is done against the scan data. So you see the scan with the assignment of the product ion, not a precursor ion. So this is not an MS-MS for a point of view of quantitation. So a couple things I'm going to skip over before I get started. First, I'm going to skip over setting up the reference pattern library using the formula. That is covered in the straight MS conformation. I'll also skip over setting up the outliers, for example, mass match score that would go along with the pattern library or library match score. You can set up these outliers. So the first thing that we want to set up in the advanced tasks is the override. So if I go to spectrum extraction setup, I'll see a number of choices. Thresholding, where to take the spectrum from. The last one here is what I'm talking about, the spectrum extraction override. So when you're doing MS-MS, you want to see the spectrum that's derived from the targeted MS-MS that's associated with that scan. That is a product ion scan. So from these choices here, you want to pick product ion scan and then fill down. Alright, now for the fun stuff. So as mentioned previously, this is scan, but I want to create a reference library from not the scan, but the MS-MS. So how do I do that? Well, first I've got to set my method to go and fetch the MS-MS in order to use this tool. So I'm going to have to do a special. So I'm going to go over here to my DVD under the specials directory and look for a targeted MS-MS library setup. And you'll see a README there, and it will set you through these steps. There is a piece of action script that will help you do this. Of course, you can type in the precursor ions yourself by transferring them over. The script will help automate that. Very useful if you have a lot of compounds. Alright, now for the demo. Here we are with the scan and the basically target ion. And what I'm going to do is to set this up as a product ion scan, targeted MS-MS, meaning the product ion is the precursor ion, and then there's a product ion scan. So I'm going to go over here to Tools, and to say Actions, Custom Action, and as I mentioned, this is in the Specials directory, and I will execute the Targeted MS-MS Reference Library Setup Assistant. And what we can see it doing here is it's going to change the scan type, and it's going to assign a precursor ion, so I end up with a product ion scan for each of these targets. And when it's finished, we'll be able to create a reference library that's an MS-MS reference library. Time to create the reference library. From method, I say setup reference library. I will obtain the reference library from the sample, and I will send it here to targeted MS-MS reference library. I'll overwrite the existing one, and the reference library has been created now. Alright, almost finished with the method setup. I need to remember to set it back to scan. So I'll fill down here, and that's because the target ion is taken from the scan. And now that I've done that, I'm ready to apply and then analyze, and this will give you an idea of the speed here. I've got 11 samples and 55 compounds, and what I'll get out of that is accurate reliability in my results of target plus MS-MS conformation with product ion scan. Thanks for your attention.